Hello and welcome to our call today. This is Paul Hoyt, your host for our Office Hours presentation. Our Office Hours are a relaxed, informal mentoring program that we do every Monday at noon Pacific time. All of the recordings, slides, and exercises are archived in the members area of our website, and all the recordings are available on my YouTube channel at youtube.com/user/Paul Hoyt. The reasons we do these Office Hours presentations is that we know that being a successful business owner can be a great experience, but we also know that it's tough. You need the education, training, tools, and team in order to be successful, and we want you to get to know us. Because when you get to know us, you will know that first and most importantly, we really do care about you. We want you to be successful in every area of your life, whatever that means to you. We want you to find the greatness, the happiness, and the divinity within yourself, and then remember it, embrace it, and live it every day. Lately, over the last couple of weeks or so, I've taken to reminding people of what incredible, magnificent people they are when they are anywhere close to being at their best, encouraging them to always remember that for themselves and do things throughout the day to help shift their energy and shift their attitude so they can get back to being that incredibly wonderful person that they are most of the time. Our passion is to increase the survival rate, accelerate the growth rate, and reduce the struggle rate of businesses in America. And our vision is to help millions of CEOs and entrepreneurs accelerate their business growth and enjoy greater harmony and balance in their lives. And we invite you to please pass the word along. If you find this Office Hours presentation to be valuable to you, please pass it along to other people that you think might find it of value as well. Invite them to come to paulhoyt.com and sign up for our Tribe portal so they have instant access to the, I'm guessing, well over 100 hours of free training and education videos and inspirational videos that we have archived on our website and in our YouTube channel. In our Office Hours presentations, we offer an in-depth discussion of a business success principle. Then I offer some closing remarks, special offers if we have some, and an invitation for next week's session. And then we go into open Q&A and coaching. So as we're making the presentation today, I invite you to write down your questions, type them in the chat log, or raise your hand so that we can address your questions and discuss the things that you want to address at the end of the call. I also invite you to join us during the call at the Awaken CEO communities on both LinkedIn and Facebook, where we publish a business success principle of the day 4 days a week and an energy of the day posting every single day on Facebook. We're up to number 697, I believe it was today. And today's energy of the day was being eloquent, which means to be very fluid and persuasive in your language. So I'm going to do my very best to practice being an eloquent presenter today. During the call, I also invite you to go to our Facebook page and make comments and ask questions and share insights and takeaways. Our goal is to have 20 comments and likes in the Facebook group. This Wednesday, we're going to have another Awaken CEO Conversation, which will be an interactive webinar with our very special guest, Dr. Jacqueline Chan. This Wednesday, October the 21st at 6 p.m., so watch your emails for sign-up information. When you sign up for the office hours, when you sign up for any office hours presentation, you are automatically signed up for office hours presentations, but you do have to sign up special for an Awaken CEO Conversation. That's a different list that we go off of. And once you sign up for an Awaken CEO Conversation, we automatically sign you up for all subsequent conversations. Today's topic is on the book Will It Fly by Thomas McKnight, written in 2004, with the subtitle of How to Know If Your Business Idea Has Wings Before You Take the Leap, which I think is a pretty darn good idea. Early in my experience as being a business consultant, I ran across a guy that had spent $100,000 of his own money and his family money on a business that did not fly. And I think that had he paid attention to the concepts and principles in this book, had he paid attention to other principles that we teach, like the Lean Startup methodology, that he wouldn't have lost all of his family's money, lost his entire retirement account, because he didn't ask himself the great questions like the ones that we're going to review with you today. We always try to relate the subject matter of the day to one or more of the key performance areas, and this is all about leadership. This is about you stepping into your role as leader of your company and making sure that you're creating a business model and a business venture that will fly, that will allow you to create a profitable, sustainable, and scalable business. We also relate the subject matter of the day to one or more of our 3 levels of performance that we teach in the Awaken CEO system: your mindset, your methods, and the momentum. And this relates to all 3 of them. We will be asking questions, or we will be introducing scorecard elements that have to do with the mindset, the methods being employed by the company, and the momentum that the company has had, which is very relevant to the Awaken CEO system. In today's conversation, we'll be talking about the author. Then we're going to talk about the 44 scorecard elements that he introduced in his book, Will It Fly, and that he has separated into several different categories. So we'll be talking about demand factors, personal factors, operational factors, financial and harvest factors, any daunting negatives that you have, and the story and the timeliness factors. And then we'll be summing it all up with the bottom line. So first, a little bit about the author, Thomas McKnight. Thomas McKnight is an entrepreneurial coach with experience with over 200 different business launches. And he has spent 29 years in corporate America as a chairman, a CEO, a vice president, and a consultant. And I think his biggest claim to fame is he helped launch USA Today. And I'm sure that was early in his career. He is also a trained attorney, so he thinks systematically. He thinks in terms of methods and processes. And I really enjoyed the scorecard elements that he has. And in his book, he does introduce, as I talked about, 44 scorecard elements, and he puts a chapter in the book for every single one of those 44 scorecard elements. For each one of those elements, he talks about why it's important, or the relevance of that particular element, where to find answers, like how to rate and determine whether or not you are strong or weak in that particular element. He talks about ways in which you can increase your score, increase your competency and your performance in that element. And then he offers practical experience and weighting factors for each element. We'll talk a lot more about weighting factors down the road, because some of these elements he rates at being more important than other elements, as you'll see when we get into it. And then he offers examples of each one as well, so that you can get a very good idea about what each one of these elements is about, and how to rate each one of these, rate your own company in the area of each one of these elements, and how and why he considers some to be more valuable than other ones. So let's jump right in it. I'm going to run through all 44 of these scorecard elements today, probably just reasonably quickly, and then we're going to sum it all up to the bottom line. So hold on to your hats. Here we go. First, we want to talk about the demand factors. Element number 1 is, are you serving a compelling unserved need? Is there pain in the marketplace, and it's obvious in the way in which you are addressing that need rather. Number 2 is, do you have an explainable uniqueness? Is the way that you are addressing that need readily explainable to your marketplace? And have you found a blue ocean in that you are serving that need in ways that other people are not serving that need? Do you have a sustainable differentiation? Can you maintain that gap? Can you maintain that uniqueness, either with some trade secrets, some secret sauce that you might have, or such a lead in the marketplace that you're able to get that sustainable differentiation through contracts and through an overwhelming, compelling market advantage? Or are you susceptible to being ambushed, as you'll see later on? Is it demonstrable now? Can you show people right now in a way that is compelling to them how you're going to address the pain that you are addressing? And is there good competition? And by good competition, he means competition that is really not doing very well in the marketplace, that you can see a way in which you can attack that competition. So by his definition, good competition is competition that has demonstrated that the market wants this particular need addressed, but is doing it in a way that's sloppy and allows you to come in a competitive way and be very, very effective in competition with them. Another demand factor is bad competition. Bad competition is the competition that is doing well in the marketplace, but you can also leverage the success that they have to have a complementary product or to meet them head on in some way. There isn't, and I think bad competition would be competition that you can go in and address not head on, but in a flanking kind of a style. For those of you who are familiar with the Art of War by Sun Tzu. Other demand factors or market factors are compelling pricing possible. Do you have a way to deliver a product or a service at a way that gives you a compelling competitive advantage in pricing? Are there immediately closable customers that you can reach right now today, or do you have to go hunt and find your customers in some way? Do you have quality of evidence of demand? So this is a weighting factor that relates to how scientific is the demand that you have. Is this just a hunch that the marketplace wants what you have, or can you scientifically prove and demonstrate that the marketplace wants your stuff? And are you ahead of the market? Do you have a first mover's advantage? Number 11 is the ambush exposure. Can you create a defensible fortress around your business in order to delay or completely forestall or eliminate the competition? And the last of the demand factors is there a hot market right now? Do people buy very, very quickly, or is the market, slow to make a decision? So those are the 12 demand factors that he puts in his book, and I encourage you, of course, to focus on market demand as one of the largest categories of understanding whether or not your business is one that's really going to take off and be successful in the marketplace. The second one of his categories that he addresses is the personal factors. And this is the attitude, the education, the mindset, the passion, the determination of the people who are founding the business. Let's run over his demand factors or elements right now. Number 13 is an attitude of confidence and fearlessness. Do the owners of the company, the founders of the company, have that incredible optimism and extreme self-confidence that we want to see out of the owners and the founders of a business? And have they demonstrated passionate determination? Have they demonstrated a commitment in terms of their time and their effort? Are they just getting started and they're working on it part-time, or have they been working on it for months or years and putting every single ounce of their energy and determination into the business? Have they demonstrated, or did you expect them to demonstrate staying power? Are they on their last legs, or do you look like somebody that's halfway through a marathon or just a few miles into the marathon, and you have a sense that they're going to be able to go the distance and go the distance hard and fast? Passion is related to those other three as well. Are they emotionally excited about this? When you talk to them about the business that they're creating and the way in which they're serving their product, their clients and their customers with their products and services, do they talk about it with great passion, or are they subdued? We want people who are passionate, because generally speaking, people who are passionate are much more convincing than people who are not passionate. And people who are passionate are more persuasive. They put more energy into it. They work harder, longer hours as well. Other personal factors are management competence. And I have to say that this is one of the very few areas that I disagreed with Mr. McKnight. And the reason that I disagree with him is because I think that this is probably, if not the most important factor, it's certainly right up there on the top 2 or 3, and he doesn't weight this quite as high as I do. The reason why I weight it very high is because I've seen hundreds of business owners jump into business without having any training at all in business. They might know what they're doing in terms of the profession, but that doesn't mean they know what they're doing in terms of business. And the most reliable study that I have ever found was done by the University of Tennessee in 2012, and they said that of the businesses that failed, 76% of the businesses that failed because of management incompetence. So I think management competence is by far the most important factor to me personally. Of course, there are other factors I consider to be important, but I think management competence is certainly one of the top 2 or 3 most important factors, and he doesn't give it quite the weight that I would like for him to. I do agree with him on the next one, which is honesty and integrity, and says that, you know, honesty, integrity, and the apparent honesty, integrity of the people that you're dealing with is extremely important. And I go even a step further than that, is before you jump into business with somebody, before you invest a lot of money that you have or time that you have in business, you need to make sure that they're an honest person. And that means doing due diligence and background checks. Because as it turns out, that people who are extremely persuasive, it's kind of hard to tell whether or not they're also very, very honest, because there are people out there that are very persuasive and just delightful people to work with and very, very passionate and high energy, but they don't always have a lot of honesty and integrity with them. And that's where, you know, that's way con men and con women make their money, is because they look like the real thing, they act like the real thing, they sound like the real thing, but they don't turn out to be the real thing. Do they have a success ethic is his element number 19. And that means, have they demonstrated in a lot of areas in their life the way a demonstrated competence at being successful? Or are they a person that seems to have one disaster after another follow them around? If a person is successful in almost everything that they do, if they seem to have a Midas touch and that everything that they touch turns to gold, you can have a lot more confidence that this particular business venture is going to be successful too. And his last one of the personal topics or personal elements in his scorecard are do they look good in the lobby? And that is essentially, when they walk into the room, is it somebody that you want to be around and do business with? Do they have a lot of charisma? I know that there are some salespeople out there that I've had the opportunity to work with that had such incredible charisma that when they walked into the room, you just want to reach for their wallet and try to pay them something so that they'll come back and see you time and time again. That's the personal category of his 44-element scorecard, and we are almost halfway through. The next category he has is the operations category. And that means, what is your current progress? How are you doing? You know, are you in revenue, etc. And here are the scorecard elements that he defines in the operations category. First, are you cash flowing now? Are you in revenue right now today? Because that's very, very important. Many companies, and by many, I mean half of the companies that I've worked with, get stalled before they ever get into revenue. And by cash flowing, he doesn't mean cash flowing in the term that in the same way we use that term in the real estate investment industry. In real estate investments, the term cash flowing means essentially profitable or generating a profit at the company. By this, he means just, are you in revenue? A second operational element that he talks about is, do you have a revenue model that swamps your costs? And by that, he means, do you have extremely high gross margins? I've seen companies try to build, or people try to build a company on very low margins, and frankly, I am against it. You have to have extremely high volumes in order to build a profitable and sustainable and scalable business when your margins are less than about 20% or so. And there's only one company that I know of that's doing that successfully, and that's Costco. Costco aims for 15 to 17% gross margin. I think everybody else needs to aim for 50% or more. I coach my clients to go for 60% or more, and that's certainly one of his big factors that I agree with him on. Do you have delivery advantages? You know, do you have some sort of a secret logistics system that allows you to deliver a quality product or service to your customers in a way that your competition cannot. And by the way, location can be a delivery advantage. If you're the only donut shop within 5 miles of a police station or any sort of a business for that matter, you have a bit of a delivery advantage and you'll be able to sustain that. Do you have resources available, demonstrably available throughout your supply chain? Can you scale the business because you can find multiple people to deliver the raw materials to you that you can manufacture, or multiple people who can deliver the services that you sell? Are those resources available that will allow you to sustain the business and scale the business over time? Do you have any preemption or domination characteristics? This is very closely related to the first mover's advantage that we talked about in the marketplace section, but preemption and domination goes a little bit further. If, for example, QuickBooks dominates desktop accounting, they've got an 80% market share. Microsoft Office dominates the marketplace that they have for Word and Excel, for spreadsheets and word processing. And if you are early enough into the marketplace, you can seal up a sustainable competitive advantage through long-term contracts with suppliers and long-term contracts with customers. Investors love for you to have those long-term contracts that will sustain the business for a long time and preempt any sort of competitive activity from somebody who wants to jump in and follow your lead. And the last one in the operations is, do you have a strategy to penetrate your marketplace? Lord knows I have seen a lot of businesses who did not focus on that strategy. And by the way, I consider that to be very, very important. I think it's almost impossible for you to create a sustainable and profitable business unless you have a very good growth strategy in place and you've translated that growth strategy into financial models and into your financial projections, so you know the cost of reaching the marketplace in the way that you want to reach the marketplace. And those are the operational, there's 6 different operational scorecard elements. Actually, there's a couple more here. Number 27 is the strategy for breaching the chasm. The chasm is defined as being that breaking point in between the early adopters and those people who purchase your products and services because they want to be the first kid on the block to have it, and the mass market itself. Jeffrey Moore wrote a great book called Crossing the Chasm that identified the chasm and the challenge of breaching that chasm, which, by the way, are tremendous. When you're talking to early adopters and innovators, you're talking about the sizzle and the sexiness of your product and how proud they will be to be one of the first people on the block to use it, which is exactly the opposite of a selling style that's required whenever you address the mass market. Because the mass market wants to know that this is proven and safe and that lots and lots of other people are using it. So to breach the chasm really takes a great strategy in order to do that. Do you have proprietary ownership? Refers to your intellectual property. Are you doing things in ways that other people are not doing them at all? And can you own and control the marketplace through either your first mover's advantage or your intellectual property advantage? And do you have good partnering candidates? Do you know of people? Are you already connected to companies that will be good supply partners to you, sales partners for you, technology development partners, marketing partners, etc.? Element number 30 is on the appropriateness of your location, which means that do you have a good location for your product? Do you have ready access to supply channels? Do you have ready access to your customers? And do you have the opportunity to expand in the marketplace in which you are penetrating the marketplace? And do you have a quality backup plan? There are some people out there who don't believe in a plan B. In fact, I've seen more than one presentation by people that say the only way that you can be successful in business is that you have no plan B, that you burn the ships whenever you get to shore so your comrades in arms won't try to escape in some way. But I don't believe that in my particular practice, we always believe in a plan B, that I believe in a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C, because plan A doesn't always work out the way that you want it to, and I don't want you to essentially lose your business if your first way of penetrating the marketplace, didn't work out for you. So I'm a big fan of this particular scorecard element, which means having a good quality backup plan. And I'm even a better fan of having an unfair advantage. An unfair advantage would be something like, your brother-in-law is the president of your largest potential client, or your sister-in-law is mayor of the town and can speak to people on your behalf in ways that are appropriate and ethical, but will really move your business forward. Do you have some sort of a secret sauce or some secret connection up your sleeve, which is not readily obvious to your clients or your competition? The next area in his scorecard is in the area of finance, and this is a pretty short one. Number one is, do you have manageable capital requirements? Can you create this business with a fair amount of capital, or does this business require massive amounts of capital before you can even ever get it off the ground? And if you can create it with a fair amount of capital, does it require only a little bit before you can launch the project? Some projects like airports and other medical devices require an awesome amount of capital before you can even tell whether or not the dog will eat the dog food, before you can even tell whether or not the market wants your products. Other products you can bring to market with much less of an investment. And of course, that is an advantage because it allows you the advantage of being flexible and bringing your products to market in an iterative fashion, multiple prototypes, prototype 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and to reintroduce your product and continue to make improvements in your product over time at a reasonable expense. And the next one he says is visible capital. In other words, do you already have a path to capital, or do you have to start from scratch and go hunt for that capital? For some people, when they start their business, they already know where they're going to get their money. They've got a rich uncle, or they've got somebody that is invested in one of their profitable enterprises before. They already see the path to capital. And if you can see the path to capital, that's a huge advantage. If you have to start from scratch and you've never raised capital before, then of course you need a capital coach, but it also takes you a little extra time to get the capital that you need for market. The next category he talks about is harvest, which is, do you have high potential value for your company? Will your investors see the potential reward for themselves, and will they understand how to get it? Is your exit strategy obvious? Of course, the ideal exit strategy for an investor, there's two ideals. Number one is that we plan to sell the company very, very quickly. In the first 3 to 5 years, we're going to create our company from scratch as a company that's highly desirable acquisition target for very large companies, and we know how to do it because we've done it before. Or we see such tremendous demand for our product that we anticipate going public with $1 billion IPO, in the first 5 to 7 years, like a Facebook, like a LinkedIn did, like a Google did, like an Apple did. If you have a company that's a high-tech company that's in a massively scalable marketplace, that's about the only time that an investor wants to hear that you're going to wait for IPO in order to give them a return on the investment. The rest of the time, they really want to hear that you are open to entertaining acquisition offers, and they really like to hear that you're creating your company from scratch to be an acquisition target of major companies. The next category he talks about is daunting negatives. Is there anything out there in the market or anything about your business that really caused the antenna to buzz and cause you to say, I'm not so sure, everything else looked great, but what about the companies being a taboo? What about them being in a business that they're going to get a lot of negative press? A classic example of that would be medical marijuana dispensary 5 years ago or 7 years ago. 5 or 7 years ago, when it was, not a recreational substance in Washington like it is now in Washington or Colorado, and looks like it's going to be in many other states very quickly. It was a perfect example of a taboo business that was a very risky investment, 7 or 10 years ago? Are there any other showstoppers that you see that just make you want to say, I am not so sure about this person. I'm not so sure about this market. I'm not so sure about this compelling advantage. I'm just not sure. Do you have any other showstoppers in your mind? And here's one of my favorite. Are the founders of the company, is the CEO of the company pretending not to know something that you think that they do know or that they really should know? I've written 80 plus business plans, and I understand that one of the things that we do when we write business plans is if something's not particularly favorable and we don't consider it to be material, we don't put it in the business plan itself. In other words, we make the investors ask the questions before we address something which we don't consider to be material. Now, by the way, when you're raising capital, you have a legal responsibility to fully disclose everything about your company that is considered to be or could reasonably consider to be material to the decision that your investor makes. But that doesn't mean that you have to air all of your dirty laundry. Or doesn't mean that you have to talk about ad nauseum every challenge that you've got or every weakness that you've got or every unfortunate conversation that you've had with an employee or a contractor or others investors. You don't have to air all your dirty laundry. You just have to make sure that you're above board with honesty and integrity and authenticity and fairly and fully disclosing anything that could reasonably be considered to be material to a competent and sophisticated investor. Every once in a while, I run across people who pretend not to know and who pretend that they don't know something that they really do know and that I consider to be material. So make sure that your investor prospect, doesn't see that in you as well. The next category is the story itself. And we're getting close to the end here. The story itself, because people love stories. Do you have high-profile persons available, celebrities and other well-known people who can tell the story of the business and can lend a tremendous amount of social proof to your investment opportunity? And does your story have punch? Is it a compelling story about somebody that was raised on a dirt road in Alabama and grew to be very famous, in the industry? And by the way, that story is exactly the story that one of my clients tells about being raised on a dirt road in Alabama, going to get a double MBA, and then creating the business after having a high-profile, profession in the entertainment industry. If you're interested to know about that business, please let me know, because I just love this CEO. But you need to have a punchy, or really a story that has a compelling and passionate story that you can communicate with your people as well, that gives you great punch when you tell your story, because people love stories. And I think the last one is carpe diem, which means, is this timely? Is it relevant in the economic situation that we're in and in the governmental situation that we're in? And is there low-hanging fruit right now readily available that you can go after in order to make this company fly? In addition to these 44 scorecard elements that I know that I went through quickly, he also offers 34 additional factors that you may want to consider when it comes to evaluating your businesses or your target investments, weighting and rating in the scorecard elements. 34 additional factors that he offers. I would encourage you to be cautious about including them, because I believe that this gentleman has created a complete system around the 44 scorecard elements that he considers to be most valuable. But we are offering a bonus to you, and that bonus to you is a spreadsheet that you can use to evaluate your opportunities with these 44 scorecard elements. That's going to be available in our tribe portal. So when I put up this recording, you who are members of our tribe will be able to log into the portal and download this spreadsheet and use it for yourself. That will allow you to rate your opportunities, either your company or a business that you are considering an investment in according to these 44 scorecard elements with the weighting factors that we hinted that there was weighting factors, but I chose not to, in the course of this presentation, tell you what the weighting factors were for each one of those 44 scorecard elements, but they are included in the spreadsheet to make it easy for you to weigh your opportunity and score your opportunity. And speaking of the scoring, he invites you to give each one of your opportunities a score from +10 to -10. Normally it's positive. He says if it's an A, give it a 9. If it's an A+, give it a 10. If it's a B, give it an 8. If it's a C, give it a 7. And if it's not so good at all, then you can score it, from 6 to 0 on the positive side. And when it comes to those showstoppers and those taboo things, you may even want to score them a -10 to take away from the overall score. Each element is weighted, and a perfect score is 860 because of the way that he has the weighting factors and the score in each one of those elements. And he says if your score is below 70%, then you need to really focus and work on the improvement. So the hidden message there is that you don't have to have a perfect score in order to have a viable business opportunity. He just says that if it's below about 70%, if your score is below 600 or so, then you really need to take a look at those elements in which you have not scored well, and using the information that's already in the book, find ways to elevate your score in those areas so that you have an opportunity that's more likely of success. I do think, as natural, that I think that there's some stuff missing from here. He doesn't talk a lot about marketing, especially branding and messaging. Nowhere in the 44 scorecard elements does he talk about your effectiveness as a marketing professional, which I think is extremely important, along with marketing, along with management competence and relative experience. I think marketing itself, your expertise on marketing, is extremely important, and he doesn't put that in. And so consequently, he doesn't talk about this very much, but you can have an idea that scores very, very highly, but still fails, because there is no such thing as a slam dunk. Just because your idea scores high on this scorecard doesn't mean you're going to be successful in launching your business, because execution is everything. I've seen more than one really great idea that for whatever reason, the owners and the founders just failed to execute on. They ran across some one of their own personal blocks that stopped them from moving the business forward. The classic one is that they, for whatever reason, got stalled in raising capital because they ran across a personal block when it came to talking to people who are wealthy, or they ran across a personal block when it came to being an effective salesperson. That telephone started to weigh 200 pounds and they just couldn't pick it up and make those phone calls that they had to make to go sell something. So you have to be cautious. Just because your scorecard was high and you scored well doesn't mean you're going to be successful. We, of course, with the Awaken CEO system, talk about competence in business growth, professional growth, and personal growth. And the way that you make sure that you don't run across any of those showstopper factors, and the way that you are successful is that you execute day after day after day, and that means focusing on personal growth and professional growth in addition to business growth. So here's the bottom line. The bottom line is that there are a lot of factors for you to consider. You can learn a lot about your business and about the way in which others see your business opportunity by going through this scorecard and evaluating your business opportunity in a systematic way. And again, just because you have a high score doesn't mean you're going to be successful, because you do have to execute. That's been our agenda for today. We talked about the 44 scorecard elements after talking a little bit about the author themselves. We talked about demand and market factors. We talked about personal factors. We talked about operational factors, finance and harvest factors. We talked about daunting negatives and showstoppers. We talked about the importance of having a great story and having a timely business opportunity, and we summed it all up with the bottom line. Your homework is, if you found this useful, and I hope that you did, buy the book. I always recommend that you buy the books. I always buy the books of the ones that I evaluate, because I want to honor the author who shared that information with me. I encourage you also to take a new business idea and run it through this scorecard, and certainly encourage you to work with a partner or a coach when you do so, somebody that you can trust to be honest with you and to ask all the various tough questions. In just a minute, we're going to open it up to questions and answers and coaching on this subject matter or anything else that you want to talk about. First, comments and questions on the topic of the day, then any other issues. And I invite you to tell me what your biggest takeaways were and the insights that you gained from the presentation for today. And tell me what you're going to focus on over the coming weeks. Here at Hoyt Management Group, we offer support services in 3 different categories. We will teach you how to do things for yourselves with our massive amount of education and training programs that we have. We will do it with you when it comes to going through things like the scorecard that we went through today, writing business plans, creating strategic plans, financial models, developing your product funnels, developing and managing your own webinar systems, etc. And in some cases, we do it for you. It's been my pleasure to be hired to do funding evaluations and feasibility studies using a lot of the principles that were talked about today. And in that particular case, those are things that we do for you. So some things we do for you, most of the things that we do with you. And of course, we are honored to offer education and training programs that allow you to learn how to do it for yourself. A quick reminder, this Wednesday, October 21st at 6 p.m., we're going to have an Awaken Conversation with Dr. Jacqueline Chan. She's a really lovely, lovely lady, a DO osteopath who is also a medical intuitive. So her business journey, her professional journey, has squarely intersected with her personal journey and her journey of spiritual growth. And we're going to highlight her, and she'll talk to you a lot more about the way that she brings values to her clients and to her patients when we talk to her on Wednesday. That's Wednesday, October the 21st at 6 p.m. Pacific. Watch your emails for sign-up information. If you have signed up before for one of our Awaken Conversations, you'll be automatically signed up for this one too. Our next office hours presentation is next Monday, the 26th. I'm not sure what I'm going to talk about, but I got a pretty good idea. In the meantime, if you can think of a book that you want me to talk about, the one thing that's something that's really, really meaningful to you in your business or anything else, please send me an email or go to paulsurvey.com and fill out the survey. And do your homework in between now and then. And with that, I'm going to take a breath and invite Stephanie to check in with the people who are live attending the call and see if we have any questions or discussion topics for today. Stephanie.
Yes, we do. Here's the first one. What's the difference between a feasibility study and a funding evaluation? Good one.
That is a good question. Let me see on that one. To me, I think a feasibility study deals with the opportunity itself. I think it's a little more, analysis of the specific opportunity. For example, is the supply chain intact? Can you really grow the business the way that you're proposing to grow the business? Is there execution risk? Is there scalability risk in some way? So to me, a feasibility study is a little more empirical, a little more focused on analysis. A fundability study, I think, encompasses a lot more of the soft factors. Do you like the people that you're dealing with? Do they seem to have the extreme self-confidence, supreme optimism, and passionate determination that you want to see out of your people? Because you can have a business that is a feasible business opportunity that just doesn't have the right team with it yet. So it might be a feasible business idea that could work given the right team, in the right time, in the right location. But to me, when you do a fundability analysis or a funding evaluation, it encompasses a lot more of the soft factors about the current team and the timeliness of it and the location of it. So to me, a feasibility study is a subset of an overall funding evaluation. And by the way, the book that we just reviewed, Will It Fly, and their 44 scorecard elements, I think is more of a funding evaluation than it is a feasibility study, because it did talk a tremendous amount about the personal factors and the capital availability and the availability of capital and do you have experience raising capital? Is there an exit strategy in place, etc.? So to me, the 44 scorecard elements in the Innovators Scorecard is more of a funding evaluation than it is a feasibility analysis. And by the way, as a reminder, I do both of those. I love to do those for clients. So if you want to have somebody, somebody to take a look at your opportunity in the way that your investor prospects might take a look at your opportunity, we'd be honored to have that conversation with you. Hope that was helpful. The next question, Stephanie.
In your opinion, what are the top things I should focus on?
I wish I had some clarification to that. Focus on, I'm going to assume that it's top things to focus on when it comes to the 44 scorecard elements. And let me know, by the way, if I missed that point. As I said before, when we got to element number 10 or whatever it was on management competence, I think that's by far and away the most important element that I can see. Because when you take a look at books like The E-Myth, and he talks about the primary challenge that most people have is that what he calls the fatal assumption is that because I'm good at my profession and I'm good at what I do necessarily means that I'll be a good CEO, which I wholeheartedly agree with. I see way too many people jump into business because they're good at doing something and they want to do that more and more often. They think that their excellence at being an accountant or a computer programmer or whatever they are will enable them to also have a profitable, sustainable, scalable business built around their excellence, and they make the fatal mistake of not getting the right training. That's why we have this 100 hours worth of training available on our website for those of you listening to the call, is because we know that it does take a lot of education. It takes a lot of professional development in order for CEOs to learn what they need to learn so that they can do what they need to do in order to be successful in business. And of course, we take it one step further with the Awaken CEO system. We understand that not only do they need to learn things and gain in professional competence and excellence, but they also need to become a stronger person, a person with greater emotional intelligence, a person of greater peace and wisdom and better relationship skills, etc., in order to be successful in their business. Because just because you're excellent at what you do as a profession does not mean in any way that you will be successful being a CEO of a business that's related to your profession. So that, I think, is number one, is management training and competence. And if you've had an opportunity to listen to my webinar or to my training program on the Business Survival Bootcamp, or a lot of the webinars that I bring this subject up in, by far, I think the most important thing to focus on is sales and delivery. Sales and delivery, sales and delivery. You have to sell it and you have to deliver it. Being able to deliver it will not allow your business to be successful. You have to sell it first before you're able to deliver it. And just being great at sales will not allow your business to be successful, because just selling something that you're not being able to deliver on will not create a sustainable business. Eventually, the wheels will come off if you're not able to fulfill your promises and meet your clients' expectations. So a great leader at a company, an awakened leader at a company, an awakened CEO understands that they need to be very good at both sales and delivery, and that they need to get the training and education necessary in order to be successful in their business. I kind of get excited about that. Can you tell my passion about that when I talk about it? I am very passionate about that, because I've seen literally hundreds of business owners, great people, just like you people who are watching this presentation or attending the call live in some way. Great people who come out and say, I've got the courage to step out and have my own business, but they don't have somebody to look them right in the eye and say, you are probably not at all prepared to be CEO of your own business unless you've had the appropriate training and education, unless you've got the right people on your team, unless you've got the right mentor, advisors, and coaches and people working with you to help you leverage your God-given talent and your experience into a successful business opportunity. So I am overjoyed to be passionate about that. Stephanie, next question.
Okay. Should I create a business plan, or does a scorecard exercise like this one work?
I think it's not a matter of or, I think it's a matter of yes, both. I'm a big fan of companies creating business plans because then they've got something to show to people, a nice formal published document. But even more importantly than that, creating your own business plan does a couple of things for you that you're not likely to get done otherwise. Number one, it really facilitates thinking it through, because to do a business plan requires you to understand what you're going to sell, who you're going to sell it to, how much you're going to sell it for, how much of it you expect to sell, how much does it cost, who you're going to have on your team, how much you're going to pay them, are you going to pay them any bonuses, or what your benefit program is going to be, where are you going to set up your business, you're going to have rental, or you're going to have automobile expenses, what fixed assets you're going to purchase, and all of that stuff that people generally don't think about until they're completing a business plan and completing the financial model, the investor grade business plan, investor grade financial model that goes along with it. So I'm a big fan of the thinking it through with your business, primarily because every single time I do a business plan and do a financial model with a company, we find something that's extremely significant that in itself paid for the business plan. We avoid making a $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, $100,000 mistake that we would not have avoided had we just decided to execute the plan that the business owner had developed without thinking it through and doing the projections associated with that. So I'm a big fan of business planning. I'm a big fan of financial modeling, but I'm also a big fan of doing the scorecard. So those are independent things. They overlap, of course, because we are talking about market demand. We are talking about the viability of the business model. We are talking about the team that you have in place. And by the way, if you noticed, there wasn't a lot of conversation in the 44 scorecard elements that we talked about the team that you had in place, which is very strange. So it's not enough to do just one or the other. My strong suggestion to you is that you do a complete feasibility study, that you do a complete funding evaluation, that you follow the lean scorecard methodology, that you do a complete business plan and an investor grade financial projection to give yourself the very best chance at having a massively profitable, scalable, and sustainable business. Next question, and I think perhaps our last question. We're coming up with 3 or 4 minutes before the top of the hour. So anybody else out there have something they want to chat about? Or Stephanie, do you have any more questions that have come to us?
Yes, here's one. What's the difference between this scorecard and an analysis of business risk?
We did an office hours presentation on business risk a couple of 3 months ago, and there were 6 primary risks, and there were several other secondary risks that were identified in that. There was the risk of I don't know if I can remember the 6 of them off the top of my head. There was execution risk, there was expansion risk, there was business model risk, which is can you make money doing this? And there were a couple of other really important risks associated with it. There was inventor's risk. Can you in fact do what it is that you want to do? And anyway, I encourage you to go watch that office hours presentation because it's important to do the risk. So here's the bottom line. You can take any sort of analysis that goes beneath the surface, that takes one step towards a more detailed analysis, and you can chunk it down in a lot of different ways. When I do my funding evaluations, I do a complete evaluation, but I don't use the same 44 scorecard elements that Thomas McKnight did in his book will it fly? I use different 44 elements. I've seen people have their 4 pillars of business success that are roughly analogous to my 7 key performance areas of a business. But we have chosen to chunk out that next level of detail into different categories. To give another analogy, if I may, whenever we evaluate the differences in between people, there's a Myers-Briggs profile, there's a DISC profile, there's a thinking style profile, there's a psychographic profile, there's an Enneagram. There are a lot of different ways of analyzing the differences between people, with the tremendous advantage of saying, hey, if you look beneath the surface just a little bit, what you see in these different categories is an advantage to you, because it allows you to have that next level of insight into the opportunity, into the person, into the team that you have, that you can leverage to your advantage in some way. You'll find that some people are visionary and other people are analysts. Some people are relationship experts and some people are just focused on implementation. You know, some companies, some businesses are real long on opportunity, but very short on the ability to take advantage of that opportunity. And other ones are exactly the opposite. They've got a team that has worked together very, very well, but maybe the business opportunity, isn't as stellar as we'd like for it to be. So however you decide to take that next level of analysis, I encourage you to do that, whether it be analyzing team dynamics, analyzing the investment opportunity that you're taking a look at, analyzing your business about whether or not it's going to fly, whether or not it's going to be a good opportunity for your investors out there. Whatever you do, get somebody on your team like myself who is a great analyst who can help you look into that next level of detail, because believe me, there are gold in them thar hills. There is gold, there is tremendous financial value to you in doing that analysis work and really exploring that next level of detail, however you choose to do that for your company. And of course, we here at Hoyt Management Group are excited for the opportunities that we have to work with our clients and customers to help them do exactly that, to help them develop strategic plans, business plans, financial models, do these funding analyses, these feasibility analysis, these funding evaluations, to help them understand their strengths and their weaknesses and the viability of their business model so they can have their very best chance at massive success. With that, I think I'm going to call it a presentation for today. I just want to remind each and every one of you what an incredible, magnificent person that you are whenever you are anywhere close to being at your best. And I encourage you to remember that every second of every day and do whatever you can to shift your energy, to raise your mood and step back into your greatness as often and as deeply as you can. And until we meet again the next time, this is Paul Hoyt wishing you a most marvelous and prosperous day. Bye-bye.